A couple of days ago, I listened as my sister explained to her young daughter the difference between rational and irrational fears. She used an example. A rational fear is something you're smart to be scared of, like venomous spiders. An irrational fear is something that's silly to be scared of, like clowns. My sister grinned at me as she said it, and I did my best to grin back. Unlike the rest of my family, she had been making an effort to reach out. I appreciate her kindness. But sometimes kindness can be exhausting, you know? Sometimes I just want people to treat me like I deserve to be treated, with reproach and disgust and hatred. I've done horrible things, and though I haven't suffered enough, I have suffered. My wife left and took our little daughter with her. I was diagnosed with lung cancer last month, even though I had never smoked a cigarette in my life. I even had to sell my house and move into this shithole. All this, and I still haven't approached atonement. I work a quiet desk job now, 9 to 5, doing no evil except punching hour after precious hour into the time clock. But no matter how much I endure, I'll never be able to make up for what I did at my old job. You see, I used to be a clown. And let me tell you, being frightened of us is the most rational thing in the world. It all started with the squeak. I was 24 at the time, fresh out of law school and unable to find work. Sitting on a park bench feeling sorry for myself, wondering how I was going to make ends meet. And then I heard it. The squeak. It was immediately followed by a chorus of laughter. Young laughter. I looked up from my bench, past a section of grass barely visible through the fallen leaves. And there he was. A clown, surrounded by a gaggle of children wearing party hats, fixated upon him with glee. My first instinct was slight discomfort. I never liked clowns. Yeah, I had read the Stephen King book, and that certainly contributed. But it was more than that. I didn't like the idea of a regular face behind the paint. A face that kids could never see through to. A face that could have been anyone capable of anything. But, as I watched this particular clown plot around the grass, intentionally tripping on his oversized shoes and cranking out balloon animals with a speed nothing short of astonishing, something shifted in my perspective. We fear clowns because we fear what we do not know, I thought. But the unknown doesn't have to be bad. The more I watched, the more entranced I became. I couldn't tell for sure, but it looked like the guy under the paint and silly clothes was genuinely having a good time. And as I pondered the prospect of extended unemployment which could only be relieved by a grinding, soul-sucking job hunched over legal papers, I grew a little jealous. Suddenly, I found myself wondering how much this guy got paid. As much as $200 a gig. The clown, whose real name was Jeff, told me when I approached him after the party, and sometimes 3 or 4 gigs a day. I did the math in my head. $600 to $800 a day was definitely livable. Hell, it was more than livable. It was downright enticing. Jeff pulled out a cigarette and lit it. "You don't mind, do you?" he asked through a puff of smoke. I shook my head. He had been surprisingly fast about wiping off his makeup, and the face underneath the masquerade was clean-shaven, calm, unassuming. He looked to be about 35 or 40. "So, is there like a clown school or something? Do you have to get certified?" Jeff let out a laugh that was strangely harsh. "Clown school? Hell no, man. You just put on the suit and fuck around for a couple of hours. You can do anything in that suit, man. Even if you just sit around making fart noises. If you're wearing the suit, those kids are gonna laugh." "So you like it then? Being a clown?" He grinned at me, half perplexed, half understanding. "Oh yeah, you'd be surprised. You get to make kids laugh. Nothing better than making a kid laugh, in my humble opinion. The pay is good, you control your own schedule, and chicks actually dig it, if you can believe that. I've laid more than one fine piece, you know. Single mom or something who was grateful I made her kid's birthday party a hit or whatever. He paused. And of course, there's other perks, too. He emphasized that last sentence enough that I had to ask, what other perks? At this, Jeff tossed his cigarette to the ground and crushed it with his foot, clearly meaning to go. But before he left, he reached into his pocket and handed me a card, emblazoned with the words, "Clown around with us," in bold, colorful letters. "Call that number if you're serious about this," he said, pointing at a series of digits at the bottom of the card. "Maybe you'll find out." 5 years later, my life was great. Happy, peaceful, and fulfilling in every way. I was married to a beautiful woman. We had a daughter together. And we had just moved into a nice place in the suburbs. And yes, before you ask, I was a clown. I still kept in touch with some of my old law school buddies, friends who had gone to work at big firms and clerk for important judges. And you know what? They were all miserable as fuck. Every last one of them. They never would have admitted it, of course, but I could see it behind their eyes. The 70-hour work weeks and the endless stream of paperwork took a major toll. Here they were in their late 20s, early 30s, the best years of a man's life, if he played his cards right, and they were drowning in the deep end. What good is a private tennis court if you never have time to play? Me? I was living within my means. But that was no problem. Clowning was fine money, and nobody raked in more of it than me. I had a hunch I'd be good at it. But the truth is, I was more than good. I was a natural. Before long, I had made a name for myself. And parents were tripping over their own regular-sized shoes to get Helpful the Clown at their kid's birthday party. Before you roll your eyes too hard at the name, try and imagine that shtick. A clown named Helpful who constantly tries to be helpful and constantly fails. If Helpful tried too hard to cut the cake, it would somehow wind up in his hair. If Helpful tried to clean up a mess, it would somehow become an even bigger mess than before. Usually, I'd get someone else to guest star with me, shaking their heads exaggeratedly at all of Helpful's misgivings. To say the kids loved it would be a huge understatement. Yes sirree, times were good. Until the police showed up at my door and led me away in handcuffs. Helpful the Clown tied another balloon animal, a duck, it looked like, and led Ariel Clayton, age 4, farther away from the house. He beckoned into the open seat of a car and slammed the door behind her once she got in. Then he hustled to the driver's side door and sped the car away. I couldn't believe my eyes. The detective stopped the tape, which had been taken from the doorbell camera of the Claytons' home. He raised an eyebrow at me. "Still sticking with your story, then?" he said. Tears started to flow. I couldn't help it. That wasn't me. It wasn't. I don't know who that was, but it's not me, I swear to God. The detective grimaced. "Yeah, we know." I sat there stunned. What? What do you mean you know? That footage was taken just after 4 p.m. Right, I was in the backyard entertaining kids. I know. Mr. and Mrs. Clayton told us, as did some of the other parents, so unless you could be in 2 places at once, it wasn't you. I started to feel angry. Well then why the hell am I here? Why'd you try to make me confess to something you already knew I didn't do? Just because you ain't the guy doesn't mean you don't know who the guy was, he responded matter-of-factly. Come on, kid. This one of your friends? I bristled a bit at the man calling me a kid. I was almost 30. Did he think hairy arms and rolled up sleeves gave him the right to talk down to me? All I know is that isn't me. I'm not saying any more until I talk with my lawyer. The detective leaned right next to my face and snarled. Fine, you unhelpful piece of shit. But hear this. If something happens to that little girl and you know anything you're not spilling your guts over right now, her blood is on your head. Jeff listened intently to my entire story. He sat up a bit straighter when I told him that I had discovered one of my spare helpful suits had gone missing. So it has to be somebody I know, right? I asked, bewildered. Either that or some random person broke into my house and kiffed my suit. Yeah, that about covers it, he said through a cloud of smoke. I had no idea how Jeff afforded so many cigarettes. Hell, I had no idea how he afforded the vast majority of his stuff. I thought as I looked around his living room, the latest in entertainment systems. A stunning grand piano. Elegant bookshelves filled completely with leather bindings. I mean, being a clown paid the bills, but I didn't see how it could pay for all of this. Somehow, in our 5 years of friendship, I had never worked up the courage to ask. So, what are you gonna do? He asked. What can I do? I've fully cooperated with the authorities and they don't want anything more from me. They know I don't know anything. Still, I paused, contemplating my situation. I don't know if I can keep clowning. I mean, the helpful brand took a pretty hard hit. I doubt I can recover from this. Already my appointments are getting canceled. Nobody wants to mess around with the clown thing anymore. That's bullshit, he said dismissively. It'll calm down. Kids get jacked all the time. If it was some dude in a plumber suit, folks wouldn't stop hiring a plumber. They'd just move on. Just lay low for a while, and then build your business back up. Easy for you to say, I said, gesturing around at the grand living room. Finally, I could take no more. I just had to know. Man, how the hell do you afford all this stuff? I live on a budget, and I get more gigs than you do. He laughed, a cold, bitter sound. Yeah, you do get more gigs than me. Almost accusatory. Sorry about that, I said quickly. Hey, I'm gonna run and use your bathroom, if that's okay. I was halfway down the hallway when he called my name. I poked my head back to the room. Yeah, what's up? I'm, remodeling that bathroom. Use the one downstairs. Third door on the left. I shrugged and headed down the stairs. When I stepped into the main room in the basement, I realized I had never been down here before. But I immediately saw why. In contrast to the impeccable floor above me, the basement was utterly dilapidated. I walked through in disbelief, wondering how somebody could stand to live on top of such filth. An intensely strong odor filled the air, and it seemed to be coming from behind a closed door at the beginning of the hallway. Despite my misgivings, I opened it, and a wave of the smell nearly brought up the contents of my stomach. Covering my nose and mouth, I looked into the room. I don't know what I expected, but this is what I saw. The room was empty, save for one small twin-size mattress on the floor. The floor was covered in piles of excrement and vomit. Bloodstains smeared the walls. The last thing I saw was a collection of leather straps on the mattress. And a muzzle. Is everything okay down there? Jeff called down from the top of the staircase. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Yeah. I'm good. I called back, quietly closing the door to that awful room and making my way down to the third door on the left. The one Jeff had told me was the bathroom. I swung the door open, and my bladder emptied. It wasn't a bathroom at all. It was a closet, and only one item of clothing hung within it. My spare Helpful the Clown suit. So, yeah, we need to talk. I whirled around. Jeff was standing about a few feet away from me, smiling, blocking the hallway. I backed myself into the closet, feeling the clown suit brush up against my neck. Stay away from me, I demanded feebly. He just laughed. Calm the hell down. I ain't gonna hurt you. Besides, I need you for this next part. What are you talking about? We need to pin this on somebody else, my man. I can't keep that thing in my closet for much longer. That suit is public enemy number 1 right now. You're not gonna kill me? I stammered. Why would I kill you? We're friends, remember? I'm the one who got you into this game in the first place. Nah, you're gonna go home and get some rest. And I'll figure out who's gonna take the fall for all of this. A lot of cops have been driving by here lately. Maybe I'm paranoid, but... His voice trailed off. And how do you know I won't report you? I asked. Why do you trust me? Well, you're already a person of interest. How do you think it's gonna look if the kidnapper turns out to be one of your best friends? Think you'll be able to convince a jury you had nothing to do with it? Maybe, but I doubt it. Especially with all that money I gave you. Money? You didn't give me shit, I said, confused. Check your account. I pulled out my phone and selected my bank's app. Sure enough, Jeff had wired me a sizable sum just a few minutes before. 50 grand. You son of a bitch! There's some gratitude for you, Jeff said easily, as though we were talking about the goddamn weather. Now listen here. You've got a choice to make, so make it very carefully. You can work with me, and that money will keep on coming. As long as you do everything I say, you'll get a payment of 50 grand every month. Your other choice is to go to jail for a very long time. I began to panic. What are you, some kind of pervert? You think I did something to that kid? You're out of your mind. I kept her here for a couple of days and then I sold her. She left this morning. My head was spinning. I grabbed the doorframe for support. Sold her? Sold her? To who? Hell if I know, he said, but nobody's ever gonna find her again. That you can be sure of. He was right. I never saw Ariel Clayton again. To the best of my knowledge, nobody did. She wasn't the only one. There were so many others. So many children. To this day, I don't know who we sold them to. And I don't know what became of them. All I know is that once they saw the clown, their lives would never be the same. I didn't like it. I never did. But I had no choice. Because Jeff gave me a quota. 1 child a month. If I failed to provide, he guaranteed my daughter would be next. Apparently there were others like me. Guys who got involved in clowning because it seemed like a way to make kids happy. Guys who wound up getting caught in the most despicable underground trade imaginable. Some of them, like Jeff, came to like it. The power, the control, the money. Others, like me, just couldn't handle it. There is no sight worse in this world than a child's face when they realize that they've made a terrible mistake. That they shouldn't have lusted after that balloon armadillo. That smiling clown face. And those squeaky shoes. That their parents who spent so much time lecturing them about things that must have seemed so trivial were right about stranger danger after all. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes they scream. And sometimes they just sit there quietly as their innocence slowly floats away. But without fail, they are simply too small and fragile and weak to stop it. I never hurt them. I never touched them. I don't think any of us did, actually. But I doubt the same can be said of the people we sold them to. I'm not stupid. I know I bathe in those sins. That's why I could never treat my daughter the same once it all began. That's why my wife finally had enough. I don't know if I believe in karma, but this life I now live is a convincing argument for it. The lung cancer is extraordinarily painful. The loneliness is almost overwhelming. The guilt is so heavy I feel I may be crushed. But maybe the worst thing of all is the fear. You see, when I finally managed to extract myself from the business, not all of the clowns were on board with that. Some wanted to put a bullet in my head right then and there. Eventually, it was decided that I could leave, but it was made very clear to me that if I breathed a word of this to the authorities, my daughter would be taken. I want to turn back the clock and take back everything I've done, but I know I can't. So I want to at least do something to make this right now. I didn't say anything when my sister told her daughter, who is about the same age as Ariel Clayton was when she was taken, that clowns are an irrational fear. But I can pass the word along to you. Please, listeners, tell your children. Be afraid of clowns. Be very afraid.